controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are Ace Up Science here to make things make sense.
Glug, glug, glug.
We're getting hammered.
I love a cold
No
pint
drinks.
after a long day at work with the bros.
That's like such a real image, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like British culture. That guy go to the pub about a little pint after
Well,
work.
it's even interesting thinking about like marketing for alcohol and how it is always about like being social and friendly, and also like weirdly everyone's fit. You're like you're consuming so much more when you drink. It's like not good for you.
I hated the movie The Star is Born. Yeah, I'm gay. Drag me. I know, it's
A
weird.
Star is Born?
A Star is
I
Born.
can't even get the name right.
Sorry. Lady Gaga. I didn't like it. Anyways, and one of the things that like made me laugh and I hated was he was supposed to be an alcoholic, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they'd put some blush on his
right.
face, like the
To look
Bradley
red.
Cooper, and then he'd turn around the shower, the most ripped bod, like all this hair, and she's like, "It's just so hard the way you drink." It's like that is a physiological error. Like this is an unbelievable movie. The premise of this movie is now debunked for me. Like he's so hot
Right,
and
it breaks
ripped.
the illusion of what his character should
It's
be.
like why and why?
Because
do
you're
we
like,
need
there
that?
are other actors who like go full in and let go and change their bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe that should have happened a
Yeah.
little more in that. Fair
Some
enough.
might say Gaga did for that role, though. Wow, what a transformation.
So we are talking about alcoholism. Obviously, I think we should. I want to be lighthearted and like be able to have fun. But
Yeah,
obviously
so
that's like a very serious.
Okay,
thing.
so alcoholism. This is the first thing we're gonna say is that is an outdated term, and the reason why this could be not funny, not funny. This shouldn't be funny, but alcohol use disorder is now the way that a doctor or like academics will talk about what this is that we collectively are dealing with as a species. Ever since we enjoyed fermented fruit as monkeys many years ago, and so. Essentially, like a lot of addiction, your phone. Everyone's addicted to their phone, sorry, folks, but it's mostly a scale. Are you mild, moderate, or severely addicted to your phone? It's a better way to think about all addictions. And so that is what now it'll say that person had a mild case of alcohol use disorder. That person had a moderate case of alcohol use disorder. That person has severe. The thing is, when you get to mild, it's interesting questions that I'm like we might have a mild alcohol use disorder, which is a fair, I think, important thing for lots of people to realize. And I'm going to ask you some of the questions.
Side note, though, can I ask you a question
Yeah.
first? When you think of the word scale, what scale do you think of first?
Because of this, I'm thinking I'm thinking of a sliding scale.
Wait,
of
I mean like
I don't know
put a
what I'm
word
saying.
before it, like blank. It's like Richter scale.
Oh, I don't know. Oh my God. Now I'm thinking, I don't know
that
why.
I said that a lot. I was just curious which came to your mind first because I was like, why did Richter come to me first?
Oh.
But then a Kinsey, you know what I mean? Like what
Whoa,
someone say?
You're blowing my mind with these white man's names. I just have to think of white men.
Or like
Electromagnetic. Damn it, that's a spectrum.
Is Richter oh, you're right, not a scale. I mean, is a scale a spectrum?
Okay. Whoa.
Anyway, back to this.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I totally thought it was going to be about this. That is insane.
No, just when you said scale, it made me think like Kinsey.
So I have a question for you.
Okay, related to alcohol?
Yeah, this is one of the questions that you would have to do to find out in a medical sense if you had AUD, mild to severe. Okay. You have a hard time stopping drinking once you've started.
That's also on a scale for me.
Okay,
so
but
what
that's
I would
a
say
fine
is
answer.
that for sure I know my limit and I know I can easily stop when I'm getting near my limit. Do you know what I mean? Like there's not been a time when I like I don't know how to describe it because I know that could, someone with a problem could also say that, but I just feel like I kind of know roughly how many drinks I want to drink going into the night.
No,
and
you're
then I usually
very-
have around that amount,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, oh, either it's been spread out and I'm not that drunk, so I'll have more, or I'm like, no, I've hit my limit, I'm gonna stop.
Actually, knowing you, I think you might not have an alcohol use disorder. Like, I don't think you would actually, based on studying this, really fall.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't think I do either.
Next question: Have you
okay.
ever tried to
Are you
cut
not gonna
back
answer
before
them?
and you couldn't?
No. I mean, like, I've tried to cut back and been like, or I'll just be like, I'm not going to drink this weekend, and then I won't. But sometimes it's more challenging, especially coming out of COVID, because it's like we're able to see friends more. So a weekend comes and I'm like, I don't really want to drink, but I probably will end up having some drinks this weekend.
So I think both you and I like have a pretty healthy relationship to alcohol, even from studying all of this stuff. But it's interesting. It's like actually, I'm working on my marijuana too. I think I'm in an okay place right now. Right? Say it into the mic. I'm doing better.
Oh
right?
my God, he's holding a fucking knife.
I'm literally
to my
grabbing
throat.
him like Katy Perry grabs that kid at that meet and greet. Say it. Say it. Gay rights. Right? Okay, anyways, moving on. So anyways, okay, so to answer that question, I do think I can stop when I've started. But one thing I thought was interesting was the tried to cut back before and couldn't. Like drinking is something that I kind of feel like I have a handle on. That like this weekend we have a friend's birthday, the weekend before was Halloween, and there have been times where I'm like, I'm not going to drink for a month, and then I can't. Do you know what I mean? Because
that's kind of why I brought up
can't do it.
Seeing people like when during COVID, and this is not to say like at times I was going on a month of not drinking, but because it was so autonomous, because we would just spend the weekends just us. Like if I didn't feel like drinking, I would not.
Oh, yeah.
But then like now people are able to have weddings and stuff and birthday parties, and it almost feels like there's a social pressure, not even to do it, but to not be rude. Like it's almost like it's your birthday. I want to show you I want to have fun.
That's so true.
And so
you're showing them a good time.
Yeah, you want to bring the energy up and like have drink and not make them think that think their party's lame or something, which is funny.
That's so interesting.
But what you said made me think of this, but I kind of forget now. It is like social aspects of it is why I would have a hard time actually sticking to stopping for a while.
So why I might say, just like for health and like even to understand, I think knowledge is power, and to not call it alcoholism anymore, to call it alcohol use disorder. For me, it's like, I think compared to some other people who really don't drink that much, they just don't have lives with people who have these parties, would actually definitely not have an alcohol use disorder. And then because my life is so socially baked with drinking as like a white, like I keep being British, but like who knows? Like lots of white friends, and like there's just a lot of drinking in that culture, that I think I might have a mild one because I've tried to cut back and not drink for a month.
In that sense,
and never could.
Yeah, it's almost like a false excuse to be like, but it's because of the social events. It's like there's people who can go to social events
who
and
don't
not drink. Yeah.
Or they're like, actually, I don't surround myself with people like that, and none of my friends drink.
Yeah.
Sometimes I meet people and they're just like, none of their friends drink, and I'm like,
well, I
wait,
have a group of friends
what?
that doesn't drink.
Yeah, exactly. I think those are the friends where sometimes
And
I'm like,
when I'm with them, I'm like, I don't want to drink.
when I'm with them, I don't drink, and it's so fun. Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah,
But sometimes I am like, it's 11 and I'm like, I need to go to bed.
Yeah, and actually it's like, it is really fun, but like definitely people aren't doing insane shit that's also really fun. You know what I mean? But it's like a different type of fun.
Interestingly, like some of the most fun I've had is with my friends when we were sober.
Exactly. And know what? Also, you don't have like the person who's like, oh, that's awkward. Like you know what I mean? Like you're too drunk and now you're like maybe making this not as fun.
You didn't answer those questions for yourself. So
I did.
The first two you did?
Yeah.
The first one, what was it?
I don't have a hard time stopping drinking when I started.
Oh, okay.
I can actually like, I've learned how to do that. I think when I was younger, I couldn't.
But okay, I would say like I don't disagree.
Oh my god! Okay,
no,
I've definitely got a mild.
No,
one,
it's more like I've actually really never thought like you can't stop drinking, but you mix substances. Like you'll like do an edible later, and I'm like,
and maybe a little bit of shrooms, and then
So I feel like sometimes you do push yourself, but it's not very often. But like every now and then.
No, but we're not. Stop it. We're talking about alcohol today.
Okay. Fair. You don't push past your alcohol.
And I do feel like I can organize what it is I'll be like, this is gonna be a fun night. I'm gonna drink this much, and I like can stop when I'm like actually.
You know,
like,
kind of where you're gonna land. Yeah.
Anyway, so I think I just have a mild one because can cut back. But moderate one is when you continue to drink even though you know it is negative to you. Which is a kind of like a harder one to sort of answer, but it's like, even though it puts you in a negative emotional state, you continue to drink.
Yeah.
When it starts to, if you ever have like a friend or a relative ever say anything to you that it's a problem, that's a question. It's like, has anyone ever said
like,
to you that you've had a problem? And then you have to be honest, because it's like, even if in your opinion they're overreacting, you still have to say yes to it.
Yeah.
And it's like a sliding
and
survey.
with that, so that's like more significant if someone asks you. Like
it's based on numbers. So say you answer 2 out of 10, for example, then you'd have mild. If you have 4 to 10, but when I was reading them, I'm like, some of these are like for severe. Like if you answered this, they'd automatically put you as severe. Okay. Is like if you consistently are drinking and driving with people in the car. Like if you ever write that, like you can't stop. That means you have a severe.
No, I didn't mean to have that reaction. I just like it is such a thing.
That's one of them. There's many other questions.
I've never literally ever driven a vehicle.
Okay, but that's because you don't have a severe alcohol. You know what I mean? This is the point also of why this could be really sad, is that so many people do.
Yeah, fair.
Alcohol is so dangerous.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Anyway, so now we know with alcohol use disorder, I might have a mild one. I don't know. A doctor might say no. But you can go online right now and just write alcohol use disorder survey and find out for yourself where you fall.
And evaluate. No, that's really important, because I think any addiction, it is like they always say, like the first step is like admitting to yourself.
Oh yeah, true.
And so to be able to even have objective tools that can help you see privately if you need to admit yourself, because we live in a society where alcohol, especially of all drugs, is so common that I think a lot of people just assume I'm drinking the same amount as everyone else around me. And you probably build a bubble in a world where, we probably think that. And then probably people we know who drink way more also think, well, everyone drinks about as much as I drink.
It's way more fun when you get in a group of people where they're drinking more and you're like, well, I'm healthy. It's not as fun when you get in the group of people who are like, oh, what? I drink like, at Christmas only. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So, I forget where I was going with that.
Just tell me some of your stuff.
Oh, okay, I just brought up I just found a bunch of really interesting studies, but I thought I would just say the top level of what they found.
Yeah.
So something I found interesting, there has been a drinking gap between men and women for a long time in terms of men drink a lot more than women. But over the last 100 years, that gap has just become smaller and smaller, and this is related to binge drinking and alcohol disorders, so not just casual drinking. It used to be 3-to-1 male risky drinking behavior, and now it's almost 1-to-1 globally.
Wow.
So it's men and women, and it's interesting because they said women over 26 are drinking a lot more, but the reason that gap is also becoming different is actually younger adults under 20 are drinking less overall, but boys are doing it at a bigger rate than women. So that's also decreasing the gap between men and women.
Wow. It's so interesting because it's that's globally too, right?
That was globally, yeah.
It's also interesting because I'm it's obviously probably they're saying globally, but it's so crazy to think about alcohol and culture. When we were in India and it was hard to find alcohol, I'm so curious about numbers there. I can see why in the West this is an issue, but also it's alcohol is quote unquote a depressant, right? It increases GABA neurotransmitters in your brain, which are the inhibitory neurons, right? So it's increasing inhibition. And I think a lot of people start because they get stressed. I think that it
as
helps
coping
deal with
mechanism.
stress
It
physiologically.
starts as fun. It makes you feel relaxed.
And then I'm no wonder women are drinking more because it's fucking stressful to be a woman. You know what I mean? I'm they were finally people were less sexist. They were back in the day, men would be don't let the woman drink. And now they're actually sexism has come and you can drink more. Oh, you're stressed as F too? Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of interesting conversations. Remember when we had to do insurance one time? They ask you all about drugs, and marijuana is included as a drug that is a problem, but alcohol is not.
Oh yeah,
because it's such a man thing.
Yeah, they were all the boys how many whiskeys did you have at lunch? 3. That's good. But if you go to therapy, you have to pay $10,000 more.
Literally, because they think you're sick if you go to therapy now. But obviously, hopefully, those kinds of things in the insurance industry are changing because it's actually way better if you go to therapy.
I love how we're so dumb. We're assuming the insurance industry is changing. It's all right. All those dudes are let's just keep the regulation and government out of here, and we're definitely not changing. They're all sipping whiskeys.
Yeah, fair. I guess I meant insurance is ultimately meant therapy in particular actually makes you better and less likely to cost you money. So insurance industry is driven by what will save them money. And so I'm alcohol is poison and actually is so unhealthy for people. And therapy is really good for people.
Also, therapy is such a socioeconomic privilege. If someone's going to therapy, they're probably rich. If you're an insurance company, they're more stable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Therapy is such a sign of stability.
Of money and affluence.
Because it's you have to be rich enough to be I'm going to spend this much on this. It's all very important. BetterHelp is a great place to go. I'm kidding. But it's anyways.
Yeah. Okay. 2 other cool facts. Not cool, actually. No. I just was searching for the word.
Kids drinking's not cool.
No, the next one is half of adults with ADHD between 20 and 39 have a substance use disorder, and alcohol is the most common one. It was just it was a really interesting study in articles that were talking about the importance of recognizing this. The sort of theory posited behind it is with ADHD, the younger you are, the more likely you're to engage in riskier behaviors when you're younger. And there's a higher association with depression and anxiety that is not classified in ADHD people. And so I don't know. I just thought it was it's one of those things that's a shocking stat, but important to think about.
Yeah, honestly.
And then the last thing before I actually had one other study that maybe I'll bring up was, how often people are a glass of wine a day is actually healthy for you. And there's been all sorts of
That's like a pop science article that comes in as
Yeah, like
fashion
red
every
wine
year.
has tannins and
Yeah.
antioxidants, and that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
There's always been pushback about like, well, actually, maybe it's because the thing is, people who are abstinent from alcohol actually have higher mortalities than people who drink a little bit. So
Yeah,
that's
but all those types of studies always have such extraneous.
Yeah. So,
variables.
well, one of the things they've always thought is like that if you're more affluent, you're more
Drinking
likely to
casually.
drink, but also eating. Like maybe you have the ability to have a trainer and go to the gym and all those things.
Yeah, true.
But what this study had found was that actually people who abstain from alcohol, it's already skewed because a lot of those people are abstaining because of health problems. Or because they already were alcoholics, or I shouldn't say that word. They had like a substance abuse problem.
Severe alcohol use disorder.
Yeah. And so it's just like that's what skews it. And ultimately, it's like the alcohol is not healthy for you, is what the study is trying to be like. We're not finding the correlation.
Yeah, no,
there.
I've never ever read
Well,
seen those headlines and never ever fallen for that. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just sorry, like just with like
No,
general.
but lots of
science
people
degree.
think like in moderation everything's healthy, and now this is being
I
like,
know. But
there's
alcohol,
no evidence
I've always
for
been
that.
like, there's no way, and I know why that article would go viral, and I know the biochemistry that you could justify through like the antioxidants of a red grape. But I'm sorry, the actual chemical of the alcohol in my head, I've always been like, has outweighed any sort of juice-like sour substance. Like it just doesn't make sense from a nutrition standpoint. But I get why it's like catchy. It's just like funny. It's like, of course it's bad, but they have to keep
I
justifying.
don't know why. Like not that I don't agree. Of course it's bad, but I see it as quite pervasive that people think you can have that it can be healthy.
The way that it's the way the popular article was written was they justify it because it actually does speed up your heart rate. When you drink one glass of red wine, that it speeds up your heart rate.
they're
And
like,
so
"That's
they
better for
jumped
you."
way too
Right.
far by saying, well, it's good to speed up your heart rate like on a walk
Right.
or a run. But it's actually like, okay, so first of all, speeding up your heart rate when you're not physically moving has a lot of like nutrition, like physics things I've read about where it's like that could be a really bad thing. That's also kind of like anxiety. That's like maybe the issue of our time. And that you can't just like make that leap. Also, you then are drinking alcohol, and our whole thing here is about how that could lead to a disorder. Like what a slippery slope always. One a day. It's like, of course it's gonna be like, well, two. Like, I'm sorry, that's obvious.
Like there are so many counterbalances. Even if speeding up your heart was a little bit good, it's like it literally destroys your sleep. Like any amount of alcohol before bed breaks your sleeping patterns. And so even if you feel like it's putting you to sleep, and it's actually like a different form of like your brain doesn't go through REM or in deep sleep for the same amount of time, and it's like actually
there
destroying
you
those
go.
parts of your brain that's like regenerative. So yeah, it is like, especially, I mean, the book I read, Why We Sleep, had a whole section on like we should party in the mornings because it at least gives your body the time to process. Not this sounds like bad advice. Like
pancake kegger, me, cake stand and
no,
loving,
I'm
bros.
not saying this is like what I think people should do, and not to encourage anyone who drinks in the morning. But it is like, then if you stopped, if it instead of at night, it was like once in the morning, then you could metabolize it all.
It just means your sleep wouldn't be as effective.
Yeah, which to a lot of people is like
important.
So that's where your brain and body like recover.
Yeah. If you didn't know, folks, sleep's about brain and body recovery.
Sleep's really important if you didn't know.
Also, alcohol, whenever you learn about it biophysiologically, I'm like, this is the most scary drug. Because it's like, you drink it like, 20% is absorbed in your stomach. So it gets absorbed pretty quick. It's a little bit like needle to the stomach. Actually, there's some studies where that goes in the tongue a little bit.
Goes in the what?
You absorb like the littlest bit of alcohol on the tongue. The tequila
and that
shot,
goes
right into
straight-
the bloodstream, babe. Straight to the
that's
brain.
dangerous.
You know what I mean? Scary shit. Anyways, when alcohol gets to your brain, it's like there's the excitatory neuron, like glutamate, which I always am like, when you read science, I'm like, excitatory sounds kind of fun and good. And then it's like, then there's like the inhibitory neuron. And when you're reading science, you're like, sorry, like, doesn't sound as good. And it's like alcohol fucking goes ham on the inhibitory one and shuts off your excitatory one. I'm like, that's every other drug. Sorry. It's like the excitatory one goes ham. It's like, well, that
For
sounds
some reason,
fun.
alcohol, it's literally
like,
depressant.
Yeah. And it's like, so why the hell? It's like, whenever I read about it, I'm like, this sounds like the most like worst drug.
Also-
and it's the most common, and it is the worst drug.
You know the other part of it? It's like, have you smelled pure alcohol? Poison.
Have
you drank even a shot? It's like,
yeah, you're like, your body's like, no. And
everyone's like, can you do it? And they're all like, Like, I mean, not to say, I guess you do that with a lemon too. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, but lemon smells good.
And there's no lemon use disorders on the planet because people aren't doing it.
It's like there's the opposite. It's called scurvy.
Yeah. Got rid of that
But I
one.
just mean like it is interesting that on first sip, everyone knows like when you sip alcohol as a child, it's disgusting the first time you ever try it. That it's like interesting that even a thing that biologically we think kind of smells disgusting,
And I
we
have
think
to
is good
make,
for us.
like drag my dad / like Scottish white men because like we are like went to Scotland and tried scotch and it's like they're like it takes 10 years to get into it. I'm like what? And then they're like okay, so you got to sniff from away so it doesn't burn your nostril. Then you gotta get a little closer and that's where you can kind of smell the chemical.
my
I'm like
God.
chemical. And they're like and then you taste it. I was like this is disgusting. I'm gonna barf. I'm literally
I can't believe how duped we've been.
because they make you swish it in your mouth.
I know, and then they're literally like, it takes 10 years to like this. It's like, why would I ever choose
poison?
to?
Yeah, like what, exactly. Like I like.
But now I'm like, I've been trying, like actually, and I'm like, why am I duped by
No,
this?
we didn't
system?
try that hard.
No, but
we immediately made fun of it. Or I
but
did,
even
at least.
now,
Like, get a better hobby than
we
that.
didn't make fun of it. We bought it.
No, I know. Well, A, I bought one for my dad, and B, I bought
And
one
for us.
No,
being
what I
like,
picture,
we're gonna have a little bit.
What I picture is like this epic party night. We got home at 4,
And you're like, here's the thing that
and
we
then
think
I'm
is
like,
disgusting.
You know what? Let's do one, and it's like once a year we open it. That's what I picture. It's kind of what my dad would
But
do.
for
as well.
why? That's what I'm saying. If you have to get 10 years to get used to it.
To make that moment just a little more special. But I'm definitely going to laugh and be like, this is disgusting. And like, it is disgusting. And
if it's
people
gonna like
know
hurt
that.
me, it's like I'd rather be drinking blue Kool-Aid. Like they're both just as bad for you, but that at least tastes amazing.
I would love if you were a connoisseur of blue Kool-Aid. We're like, so you start by observing the
I'm
blueness.
not lying. Blue Kool-Aid is one of the best drinks
It
on
really
this planet.
is. And I actually was like, you could be a connoisseur. You're like, at this one, I'm actually going to do only half the carton of the Kool-Aid blue to get the lightest tinge.
And like even the comparing like blue flavor, like slushies, I'm like,
yeah. I always
what
chose
is
blue.
this? Yeah.
It's like, they're like blueberry.
yeah, but you're like, this isn't
No,
blueberry.
it's blueberry. It's like actually like pure glucose. Like,
When you see the Kool-Aid package, it's like all you get is this little thing, and then you have
When
to
you put-
buy the sugar that is like actually
when
so
you
much
put
sugar.
the sugar in that, I remember as a kid, I was the first moment I was kind of like, yeah, mom, you're right. This is disgusting. We're gonna decrease the sugar on this recipe, because my mom would always decrease the sugar on recipes because they were like healthy. She'd be like, Greg, let's do it. And like, I honestly was always like, Mom, more sugar. But the first
saw the
time
Kool-Aid, you were
I had to
like-
do Kool-Aid, I was like dumping in the water. I remember like dumping in the sugar, and I'd be like, one more cup.
Okay.
And then I was like, this is sick. Like, this isn't even gonna dissolve physically into this
It's like
substance.
probably to the point where they're like any more and it won't dissolve. But
That's
I have to be
wild.
honest, and I know we're really off topic, but
Not really. It's also sugar use disorder. We all got
true.
one.
Yeah, okay, we should do an episode on that.
Writing it
Like
down.
just talking about sugar in general. But what was I gonna say? Oh, you love baking, and sometimes when I have to bake or watch you bake, I do also feel that.
Yeah, totally.
Like Kool-Aid's the one thing that like,
Totally.
nothing else in my life do I put that much sugar in. Not that I hadn't had
But it's
Kool-Aid in a long
scarier
time.
when you're putting it in a quote unquote
Just a
juice.
liquid that you can drink
Yeah.
in literally 10 seconds.
It's scary. It's
like
honestly
I
scary.
could chug blue Kool-Aid. I hope everyone knows what blue Kool-Aid is.
I
Like
think
I'm
that's
sure
a-
there are other brands in other countries maybe, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if everyone else had that obsession. I probably haven't had it in like maybe a decade, and I still feel this strongly about blue Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and I honestly am like surprised we haven't. Like that means we must have been that spooked by the sugar we saw. Like why haven't we done it?
Yeah, because it also is like, why would I buy that? It's food coloring. If I have
Yeah.
to provide like all the sugar,
That's
why am
so
I paying
true.
for this like essence of flavor? It's just sugar.
Okay, another thing about alcohol use disorder that I thought was weird was not weird. I just sort of was like, dodge that bullet, quote unquote. You and I both definitely drank so much less in the pandemic. This might be why I think we're me mild. If
Actually-
not, we don't have one.
I think that was not true at the beginning.
Oh my God, you're right. It wasn't true at the beginning. At the beginning, I
there
felt
was
it
like a
kept the
kind of
same.
mid part where I feel that we were like not drinking, but we were
Mitch,
doing Fridays.
Mitch, but I'm saying I think it became the same as what we were doing before. It never got more. What I'm saying is alcohol sales, according to Nielsen data. This is sorry. What I'm saying is, Sidenote podcast. I'm going to read you some stat that the alcohol sales climbed by 54% per week in Canada and America starting March 21st, 2020.
Like right away.
Literal day of the lockdown orders.
I'm not lying.
that
Maybe we're
weird?
experiencing this different. I think we drank more in the pandemic for like in the beginning. because we were bored on the
Really?
weekends. And not that we were drinking that much. I think we don't drink that much.
But don't you
to
think when
begin
we
with.
go out, we drink so much more than we were? I remember thinking.
Maybe
I
you're
remember
right. I
thinking,
think
like,
it's
but
because
maybe
you're
not.
being like, okay, yeah, we don't drink that much to begin with. When we do, though, it is like a binge. Like it's like have a big
Yeah.
night out. Like we don't really drink. I drink with dinner.
Yeah.
But I did find we would do that a lot more, which we never did. Which
Okay,
is
then
like,
that would lead
we would
to
have
more
drinks with
purchasing.
dinner.
Potentially.
Yeah, and I feel like on the whole, like if I go out at night, I'm pretty lightweight. I'm gonna have like 6 drinks. But we would sometimes over the course of the whole weekend have more than that.
Oh my God. I also kind of just figured out a complete flaw in the statistic.
What?
Okay, stay-at-home orders. A lot of those drinks that we were drinking was at a bar. So it's like, of course, alcohol sales went up because bars are now closed.
Yeah,
so
everyone
you're like, we were purchasing our own alcohol from stores then
Right.
to fill that Saturday night, which we would have been getting that alcohol at a bar.
Right.
Whoa, it's like
But maybe
false.
but couldn't those
This is Nielsen data of what was sold.
what was
You know what I mean?
sold?
Oh, but
does it
then
not count
when
for
the bar
also,
buys it?
Yeah, and
Oh,
they're selling it. Like
interesting.
maybe that's part of the
Oh, that's
statistic.
very interesting.
Is that it was like
wow, supply chain got there. You're right. If we go to the
I
supply
don't
chain,
know.
it's still a bottle of rum.
But you might
coming
be
to
right.
a bar.
Look into that study. Could be
Nielsen
flawed.
data. It was in Nature magazine. Oh wow, I'm coming for Nature.
A letter
Coming
to
for
the
nature.
editor.
But yeah.
Mother Nature.
Anyways, the sale of alcohol did increase.
Yeah, I had heard that as well. And actually, that's kind of a lot of people I've spoken to gave me that impression overall, that a lot of people did drink more, even if we didn't. Like at home, maybe people were more aware of it because you're right. I feel like when you go to a bar, even for like a dinner, you kind of like tuck those drinks away. But I don't know. I just, on the whole, I feel like a lot of people were like, yeah, actually, it was a lot harder in the pandemic and I did drink a lot more. That's what I've heard.
So tell me about the impact on exercise.
Oh yeah, you're looking over here. No, so my last thing, and the reason I brought it up, because I was like thinking, what positive ways to think about this, tackle this, whether you have a mild, medium, high problem. And I came across a study on exercise, and as you know, what's going to probably happen is exercise, like generally, is good on things.
Yeah.
It's like what we keep learning.
So yeah, we keep learning it. We're just trying to mimic the way we were before, running the hell around, trying to get some food.
Yeah, but it's actually so annoying to have to like be like,
Yeah.
ugh, the exercise is actually the thing
Especially
that's like
in our culture
so
now, where
good.
it's like I could just sit here and watch other people live their lives in a TV show.
So anyway, the study, had the premise that like binge drinking is on the rise globally, especially in Western cultures.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
the biggest predictor for alcohol problems is having cravings for alcohol, which I guess like seems obvious in some ways, but that is like, if people crave it, you probably have an alcohol disorder. And that is, cravings are impacted in general by stress and your mood. Cravings for anything, but in particular, they've found that like the more stressed you are and the worse your mood, the more like you are to give into your cravings or get them. And so because exercise is known to reduce stress and improve your mood, this study was trying to see if there was a causal link between the two. So they took students who they diagnosed to have problems with alcohol and put them in 3 different groups. They had a group that would get distracted by coloring. So that was like they're distracting. And the other one was an exercise group. And so
Coloring, I love it.
But
so I love just thinking about the day when the like person comes in, like maybe they even have a lab coat on for some performance, and they go, color here. And then you're just coloring like,
yeah, seriously. Oh my God. But it's like, there's results. Just wait.
done. Do you want a butterfly next? And they're just like taking notes, and you're like, what the fuck?
And you're like, this surely is the weirdest thing.
Yeah, like
ever.
I'm clearly not in the one they're studying unless they're doing a study on coloring.
You never know.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
about
true,
to tell you some really
true.
cool results.
That's true.
So they, after these, obviously
true.
like tested them, established a bunch of like questionnaires that are about disordered consumption and stuff that are kind of known to be. So both exercise and coloring decreased stress and improved mood, but it
obsessed.
was exercise that had the biggest impact
But still,
by a large
yeah,
margin.
true. Actually, yeah, you should have been studying coloring. As someone who loves to paint, art therapy, my friends, it's real. But know what's better than art therapy, I guess? Exercise.
Well, it was just their distinction between the two as well was that it's distractions can help us when we're bored or we don't have something to do, like having stuff to do gives
is
you a distraction.
crazy.
But they realized it wasn't just the distraction. There's actually something about exercise that changes you.
This is also crazy, I will say, because I'm working on an episode about what happens when you stop drinking alcohol. And it's because people who have severe alcohol use disorders are constantly, quote unquote, depressing. Like inhibiting essentially is the right word. It's specific neurotransmitters, but it's a depressant. They're constantly making their whole brain neurophysiology, which changes as you drink. There's genetic adaptations, epigenetic adaptations that when you drink a lot, your whole brain changes. And so does your body. It's really sad. You don't look like Bradley Cooper. But it's like essentially when you stop drinking, because your neurons have been like constantly depressed, what happens is you go into such an excited state. That's why people who are alcoholics drink what they shake, but that's why you could get delirium tremens, which can kill you. It's such an excited state that your body's in. You don't have any control over your neurons. That's why people who are alcoholics, when they quit, if you don't do it with a professional or a medical professional with like medication or like weaning yourself off it, you will die. You can die. That is so scary.
Severe cases,
that's an example of something when people compare alcohol and marijuana. There's no case of that happening with marijuana yet. So it's just like alcohol is very dangerous. It's scary. But it's the excited state of your body that it can't control anymore. And then I think about exercise and I'm like, exercise is obviously like the thing you do if your body's like too excited. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's some link there where it's like.
I'm not sure I know exactly what you mean, but.
Like the issue with alcohol is that it's a depressant. Physiologically and neurochemically.
Yes.
And so therefore, the thing that you end up lacking when you drink too much is literally like the excitation, the glutamate, the things in your brain that like kind of like for some reason for me are like mixed with like exercise.
Yeah.
Like I sometimes crave exercise if I'm needing to like deal with the excitatory neuron of my brain being too much.
But I don't see the connection between like how exercising then like
I just feel like
that.
In a way, it's like exercise is the way I cope with that thing. That like if you're trying to stop drinking, for example, and you start to shake, it would make so much sense to me to like start to exercise to deal with it.
Maybe
it's like
that's interesting.
Now your body's in such a neurochemical excited state. Go and like put that into some physical exercise. I'm curious what would happen like if you could.
Yeah, I just like I don't know. Also medically, it's like. When you're in a moment of like being in alcohol withdrawal, I don't think the thing there is to exercise.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not like you're going to save yourself in the moment by going and exercising. It's more like exercise has a long-term benefit outside of exercising. Is actually what this study was saying. But
I also think right now we're talking about severe alcohol use disorders, and I'm like let's go back to mild. Let's go back to you and I. Let's go back to someone even at moderate who's like. You're dealing with maybe it's like not super severe, but all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've been drinking so much, I had a bender and now my hands are shaking. Maybe I'm just like, go do push-ups.
I mean, you don't have to be shaking though,
but you know what I mean? I'm just like, there's something with my hand shaking that makes me want to run. That makes me want to be like,
I can see the connection that maybe it's like if you've depressed your neurology too
that's
much,
what I'm trying to say.
You should actually, I'm not thinking that your body's overexcited. It's more like you should excite it.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? That the excitation would at least like counteract that like neuro I don't know. But we're just making things. This is all conjecture.
This is all conjecture based on like biochemistry.
Just like thinking out loud and like we're personifying a chemical reaction that we actually don't know about.
All biochemical conjecture. I hope everyone knows that.
That's why I just wanted to be we don't know. But anyway, either way, exercising was beyond just doing it as a distraction had long-term benefits. So that is why exercise is often like such this not cure, we shouldn't say cure, but like it's thrown around as like this thing that helps everything. And it's because it's not just a distraction, like it changes your body.
For sure.
And that lasts not just right after you do it. It can impact you like over the course of years. It can change your whole brain.
Yeah, for sure. Exercise is just like, you're always going to hear on this podcast. Mostly not good.
But it is. Let's quickly talk about why that's so annoying though. Because it is just like, I guess it's just actually really hard. And in the way our world is designed, exercise is not like, it's not that it's not encouraged. Lots of people do exercise, but it just feels like everything is so easy. Like it's so comfortable to sit.
Yeah.
It's so comfortable to just watch TV all the time and be on my computer all day for work. Like our world is not designed for exercise being like, I think you naturally intertwined.
You kind of, for me, just answered your own question.
Yeah.
Is that the world isn't designed? You know what I mean? It's like, the world is not
because
designed
it's like
for that. It's designed to give you everything
actually
you want.
annoying to have to go somewhere for 1 hour to do exercise so that you can be healthy.
It's like
versus a world where like people who have jobs where they can at least walk around on their feet are at least like getting that.
Yeah, no, like going to the gym
And
is
that's amazing.
so embarrassing as a species. I've always thought this. It's like we are meant to be literally physical all day long, but then now we pay money to go and run in on the spot. Like if an alien came here, they'd be like, they're just running on the spot. Like, goddamn, like, they're all a bunch of rats. Like, it's so weird to me. And it is cool. I think in our show, streaming on YouTube, go watch right now, is like, it is like, that is all energy we should be harnessing. Like it is true. Like we should, like someone should be advancing the technology of that.
So, like, we're
because it's like,
using
we
our
are
bodies.
at least then we could have a little bit of purpose at the gym. Right now, it's like feels so sad to me because it's like our culture is and our whole world's been so robbed of physical activity that we have to do it like this way. Like I sometimes get sad when I think about it. But
Like, don't worry, the computers will figure out how to harness the energy from humans.
Whoa.
AKA, this is a promo for The Matrix 4.
yeah, like I was like, well, I was literally the Matrix. Honestly, let's just do another episode of an exercise. Let's just do it because that is so interesting to me.
We should do one on The
let's end
Matrix
it.
too, because
Yeah.
I love The Matrix and I am excited, but also like so scared it's gonna be so bad.
No, okay. When I saw the trailer, okay, I loved the first Matrix.
Yeah.
And but to swear to God, no idea what was going on. It was just like
In the first one?
It's so funny how everyone's like, even like you saying the metaphor of the Matrix. Like I think I figured that out like 3 years ago. I'm not kidding. Like I just like what the Matrix was one of those movies that like.
Also, it's like not a metaphor. It's like
Sorry, the whole premise. I just was like, it was so cool that there was like the way they fought, but I was like, don't know why they're fighting. I don't know what this pill means. Like, I just never was like. But when I found out what it was, I was like, first of all, this is sick. Like when I found out the premise, I then really started to like the Matrix. But which is why I think 4 will be good because the trailer for 4, when we watched in the theater before that movie recently, I was like, that was sick. And I'm
out of
excited.
all the trailers, it was
looks
one of the best
good.
ones.
So, the other thing,
however,
second and third Matrix, I have to say, I was like, this bad.
So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a talking. So the same experience you had with number 1. On the surface, I understand why people like 2 and 3 less because they are not, I think, as like succinct. They have some flaws in them, but when you kind of can get past the fact that they're like doing these battles and fightings, there's like some really interesting conversations about spirituality and about
we
like
did watch
what it
that one
means to
recently.
die and to
Yeah.
have a purpose and
Yeah.
to like be human. And
Yeah.
it is like objectively a slightly worse movie, but in the same way that when you realized the metaphor of the first Matrix, it like makes it better.
You're right. And know what? Second and third, I also didn't know what was going on. When the machines started
No,
like,
it is weird.
lasering everything, and I knew he like became like a crucifix like Jesus near the end. So at that point, I was like, oh, that's Jesus. I read that or something. Like I was like, Jesus is here. And like, but when the machines were like those squid-like things, I was like, you lost me. Wachowski sisters. Like I was just like, this is not what I thought it was. But I also now think I've figured it out more, and I'm like, that is still cool.
I think this is something, and I know this is a side note, okay? We are like so different in so many ways, and it's really interesting. And one of them is that I watch movies over and over and over, and you typically
Yeah.
like to watch them once, and like that.
Yeah.
If you love them, you'll watch
I
them.
would actually love to watch The Matrix again.
So what I was gonna say though, to my point, and I'm curious about your perspective on the other side. I don't want this to come off as like the way I do it is better. But I love rewatching movies, for example, because I feel like I pull more and more meaning from them.
No, that's a
each
really nice way
time.
of putting it. Now I'm like, I want to rewatch movies.
It's kind of like rereading a book, and then you
Yeah.
can almost get more out of it. Or like even like Lord of the Rings. I understand why people wouldn't love it, but like the more you watch it, the more you like think about the themes that
No, it's
follow
so
in the movie and like
interesting.
how that applies to your life.
is like I sometimes think.
I thought you were crying.
Imagine I was like, that is so true. Like you see me so deeply, and I love it. And I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with that. You know, I don't know, maybe 2 times, but actually, I'm struggling with that. Like when you said that, I was like, God damn it, I want to watch Matrix. But anyway. I also think
You just need to be having a massage while you watch it.
yeah. But I rewatched this movie Little Children recently because I was in like a film club, and then I was like, oh no, I was trying to write a screenplay.
Not
And
Little
it was-
Princess.
No, Little
Amazing
Children.
film.
Yeah, also good. Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, but you hadn't seen it till we were like old.
No, I know, and I probably should rewatch it. Okay, but like, I watched Little Children and like read the screenplay, and I was like, this sucks. Like when I watched it when it came out,
What is Little Children?
it's with Kate Winslet,
Okay.
and it's like a series of 3 stories. One's about a pedophile. Do you remember? I feel like we might have seen it. And Kate Winslet is like a mother and she
Oh.
like is having an affair with
Okay, I think I do remember, but it's so
and there's
long ago, I
clocks,
don't really remember.
And there's like
it.
a lot of talk of like physics and like
Okay.
honestly, I'm not kidding, like it meant so much to me when I saw it. It blew me away. I rewatched it. I was like, this is so bad, and dated. And I was like, I think my thing about like wanting to know I want to spend time watching what's right now because I almost rely on it
can, like,
for
provide
like
you those
for what I
things.
think I need to know now. And it was like, and I don't know if this is like
Right.
this could be complete BS, but I remember I had this weird thing with little children and the pedophile at the time because I was like coming out and the way that he was treated sexually because he wanted children. I remember just
People
like
like acted like that was what it was to be gay.
it was like such a dark movie and it just made me as like a newly coming out person like feel something like crazy and dark and made me question so many things.
Right.
But now I've like figured out so many different things. I'm like, that's actually
Right,
like a
it
fucking
just
weird
seems like-
connection.
Yeah,
But at the
fair.
time I was young and I was like darkly sad about coming out. Or there was something there that now I was like,
is an
"Ugh."
interesting thing. Like that is true. Sometimes the media we consume, it's like, is this an episode on alcohol? I'm sorry.
No, we just have to wrap it up.
Sometimes
but,
the
like,
media we consume,
Side
like
note.
you are like 10 years older and you're like, oh yeah, that thing I really liked. Sometimes I go back and watch and I am like, I don't like it anymore. It's not funny, or it's actually like weirdly sexist or something that it, like Friends, like you go
Yeah.
back and you're like, oh my God, okay, yeah, like I did really love that.
yeah, but then I'm like, did I seriously laugh at some of these jokes? That's so sad.
yeah, but then there are other parts that I'm like are still funny,
Yeah,
but I'm like, it
it's
sucks
Phoebe.
that it's like, yeah, it's
No
literally all
offense, no
Phoebe.
offense, everyone, but it's Lisa Kudrow.
But then what is amazing is when you can have a movie last for decades and it still is impactful.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you're rewatching, and when they're amazing, it's so amazing.
because you're like, wow, I can also connect to the young me who watched this, and still these themes like come away
I
as
want to
beautiful.
rewatch The Matrix.
We're going to.
Like, we should watch it tonight. You would definitely say yes to that.
I watched the first one on the plane
yeah.
like the other day.
And
when we
cheaper
went
by
to-
the dozen. Okay, that's the
Oh,
show.
oh my God, you little.
Mitch watched.
I watched cheaper. I chose Cheaper by the Dozen.
Cheaper by the
okay?
Dozen is a pretty good movie. It actually is a pretty good movie. Okay,
It's great.
peace.
Bye.